one of the many exciting things about joining Liv was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv.
1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Liv Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie eight, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
It might be the summer, but today we take you back to college. Hello and welcome to College Football Today's Summer Special. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. We are going to get you set for the 2024 college football campaign, a season, Joe, that will look very different than anything we have ever seen in the history of college football. Realigned conferences, an expanded 12-team college football playoff, and so many changes to keep you up to date and up to speed with as we get ready for 2024. A wise man once told me this is what it's all about.
Oh, this is what it's all about. A wide open field. We have a handful, Ben, of about 12 to 15 teams that potentially can win a national championship. But let's not forget the first season without Nick Saban coaching Alabama. It's been about, 30, 40 seasons without the mad scientist at the helm. We'll see how it plays out.
A new reign in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer makes the trip from Seattle, where he led Washington to a national championship game, and now will take over in Alabama. Plenty of changes, not just from a personnel and player movement perspective in this NIL and transfer portal era, but also with the conferences and the leagues around the country. This week, Joe, July 1st, was the official start of conference realignment. Over the past 2 to 3 off seasons, you have seen the updates. First, it was Oklahoma and Texas departing the Big 12 as the standard bearers in that conference to join the SEC. Then it was USC and UCLA leaving the West Coast and the Pac-12 to join the Big 10, followed by the dissolution of the Pac-12. The once great Conference of Champions is no more, as Oregon and Washington join the Big 10 as well. And, of course, we have the 4 corner schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah entering the Big 12. And, the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, can't really bear that name anymore, as Cal and Stanford join the ACC, 2 teams from the Pacific Coast, and SMU in the heart of the Lone Star State in Dallas. All of that, Joe, officially undertaking this week on July 1st. And, of course, it is a new landscape then in college sports, but specifically led by college football. No longer the Power 5, it's really the Power 4 with the Big 2, the Big 10, and the SEC calling all the shots.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. interesting to see how this season plays out. You see some of the front runners as well, Texas and Oregon, newcomers in their respective divisions that are front runners to win the national championship game. But I'll say this, Ben, the games that we're going to see in the first 3 weeks of the regular season are dynamic. We have Georgia and Clemson squaring off. We see Texas going to Michigan in week number 2, Ohio State to Oregon. Those are games potentially we wouldn't have seen for maybe 10, 15 years. We're going to see it in the first month of the regular season, and this is what it's all about, baby. Explosiveness throughout the regular season.
And that is the optimistic outlook of how good the conference games are going to be all year long. Conference slates are going to be gauntlet, but the competition is going to be at the nth degree. And as we look around the country and you see those newcomers to the Big Ten and you see the 2 new schools in the SEC, how the ACC has reformatted its league and the Big 12 stacked from top to bottom now with 16 schools, it also has an impact from the odds perspective, because it is a new era. You are not going to just be able to run through your conference slate as Georgia and Michigan and Alabama and Ohio State have in years past. There are no longer divisions in both the Southeastern Conference and in the Big Ten. We'll dive into all of the odds that you need to know. But it's not just conference realignment, Joe, but the path to a college football playoff. 10 years of the 4-team format of the CFP is now a thing of recent history. It is a 12-team expanded field in the college football playoff entering the 2024 college football campaign. And here is the logistics of how it works. 5 highest-ranked conference champions get an automatic berth into the field of 12, which leaves 7 at-large bids. Now we have more college football playoff games. We will have an opening round, seeds 5 through 12. We'll have on-campus home CFP games in the middle of December to start the CFP, followed by the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and, of course, a national championship game way later in 2025 on Monday, January 20th. Joe, there is a lot to adapt to. There is a lot to get used to this year in college football, but with change comes excitement. That's the 12-team era of the college football playoff.
I can't wait. I tell you, I can't wait for the season to kick off on August 24th. That's what it's all about. But to your point, Ben, in terms of the odds perspective as well, think about the past couple of seasons. We saw TCU make the national championship game as a 200-1 shot. You're not going to see that this year. Right. A lot of watered down odds because the books don't want to really expose risk. They want to mitigate that risk. So you're seeing a lot of teams, 15, 20 teams under 80-1. And I think that's the change that we'll see. Teams like Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, and Lane Kiffin have a shot. We see other teams as well. Newcomers in the league. Utah, a front runner for the Big 12. Can they maintain the success from the start of the season to the end of the regular season? We saw 4 teams last year struggle with conference realignment. That'll open the door for potentially a dark horse as well.
Lisi, I think it's one of the best points that you have brought up all off season long. Just from the handicapping and betting perspective, you need to know where the liabilities are. And as we show you the national championship odds and the 10 best prices to win the college football playoff national title this year, you'll notice a consistent theme. 9 of the 10 best prices hail from 2 conferences. That's the Big Ten and the SEC, because Oregon is now a Big Ten school. Texas is now an SEC school. The only team in the top 10 that is not in one of those 2 conferences is not in any league, and that's Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, a 22-1 number. So in the 4-team format of the college football playoff era the past decade, we never saw a team with multiple losses make the 4-team college football playoff field. Now with 12 spots available, we are going to see multiple teams, Joe, with multiple losses. 2, maybe even 3, get into the college football playoff.
And think about last year. We saw Georgia, right? I mean, they ran the gauntlet in terms of the regular season. They won their 11 FBS games by an average margin of victory, Ben, of 22.2 points per game, lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, and they're on the outside looking in. Right. Florida State State 13-0. They lose Jordan Travis. They're out. This year, they both be in. So I think that's, from the odds perspective, how you have to see it. Teams like Penn State have a shot. Teams like Ole Miss, like I mentioned, and some others. So which team could step up in the regular season? And if they do, in fact, lose a regular season early game, that does not necessarily mean they're out of the mix.
Georgia has lost 2 games in the last 3 college football campaigns, both in the SEC championship and both to Alabama. We got so angry, and rightfully so, about Florida State being left out of the college football playoff, we almost forgot about UGA in this discussion. FSU, who was the favorite to win the ACC, the Seminoles now have a great opportunity to see the college football playoff field, because in the final year of a 4-team format of the CFP, there were so many qualified candidates, so many strong teams with strong resumes, it almost hearkened us to have expansion the very next year. Florida State was the 15th Power 5 conference champion who was undefeated through that conference title game in the decade-long history of the college football playoff era with 4 teams, the only of those 15 undefeated Power 5 conference champs to be left out of the CFP. Georgia came up short in its quest for 3 consecutive national championships last year, but Lisi, the Bulldogs will enter 2024 with the shortest price at 3-1, followed by Ohio State at plus 430. The Buckeyes saw the maize and blue Michigan win a national championship last year, their most bitter rivals, and said never again. All of the changes this offseason in Columbus, Ohio State should certainly be in the running this season.
Pressure's on Ryan Day. No excuse. Quinshawn Junkins comes over, Will Howard as well, and they have 7 starters back on that defense, and Carson Beck comes back for the Georgia Bulldogs, the front runner for the potential Heisman Trophy. Should be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Part of the new faces and names within the Big Ten, within Ohio State's football program, and of course a conference that looks very different as well. A Big Ten breakdown on the other side of the break here on CFT Summer Special.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the 3 teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream Team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those 2 teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to our College Football Today Summer Special. He's Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Things look very different this year ahead in college football in 2024. A reimagined college football playoff with an expanded field of 12 and maybe most notably conference realignment in a large way. We start with one of the big two of the new Power Four. That would be the Big Ten Conference. There are some familiar programs, but of course the addition of the 4 West Coast newcomers in USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. But Joe, we start our conversation by looking at those conference championship odds. Ohio State plus 140. The Buckeyes will enter this season as the favorites to win the Big Ten, followed by Oregon at plus 210, then Penn State at plus 550, and the 3-time Big Ten champions in the last 3 college football seasons and the reigning national title winners, that would be the Maize and Blue, the Michigan Wolverines, out of Ann Arbor at plus 650. Changes in the Big Ten. Sweeping changes in Ann Arbor this offseason after getting back to the mountaintop for the first time since 1997. Jim Harbaugh, the head coach, no longer there. He's in the National Football League coaching the Chargers. J.J. McCarthy, the winningest quarterback in the last 50 years in CFP, he's in the NFL as well with the Minnesota Vikings. Blake Corum, who has been a certified touchdown scorer each and every week, he's also in the NFL. All to say, so many changes for the Wolverines this year, and we see that reflected in their prices, no longer the favorites to win the Big Ten.
It's got a lot of pressure on Sharon Moore. Now, in his 2 interim starts, he did step up. He got the victories over Penn State and Maryland, respectively. In both of those games, they rushed the rock for 84 attempts in both of those ball games, grounded it out, and relied on the defense. Didn't really ask a lot out of J.J. McCarthy. Last year, Michigan, Ben, averaged 165 rushing yards per game. Why is that important? Because the previous 2 seasons, they were over 200. So they relied on the rushing attack the previous 2 seasons much more than they did last year, and they progressed under J.J. McCarthy. Only 2 starters come back, but Donovan Edwards and that offensive line are there. They do square off against Texas in terms of week number 2. They're already 3.5-point dogs in that matchup. They do have a 22-game home winning streak, so it's not going to be easy for Texas. I think this team right now, on paper, potentially 9-3, 10-2, but that might be enough to get them into the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's a great point. 9.5 is the win total for the Michigan Wolverines, who were undefeated a year ago in their conquest of a national championship. But even if they finish 9-3, given the schedule, given where the Big Ten stands as a conference as a whole, it does not eliminate the Wolverines from college football playoff contention. The new quarterback battle this summer in Ann Arbor, the veteran Jack Tuttle, who came over from Indiana a few seasons ago, has Big Ten experience, and Alex Orji as well, more of an athletic-style quarterback who can run the rock like Donovan Edwards. And the good thing for Michigan, Sharon Moore, the OC, the offensive line coach, that consistency will remain. Michigan had 13 players drafted in the 2024 NFL Draft. Anytime that happens, of course, there will be a ton of turnover. So the Wolverines, the reigning national champs, still one of the 10 best prices to win the national title this season. Ohio State saw their most bitter rival win a national title and said to themselves, we are never going to let that happen ever again, especially in the microcosm, Joe, that was last year, the sign-stealing scandal with Connor Stallions in Ann Arbor, and a lot of the speculation around the rivalry and what led to that information even being leaked. A lot of pressure on Ryan Day entering 2024 in Columbus. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. He's got a new quarterback, the transfer from Kansas State, Will Howard. He's got a new shiny running back in the backfield with Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, and so much wide receiver talent returns, along with so much talent on the defensive side of the football. In the SEC Freshman of the Year from Alabama, Caleb Downs. All to say, Ohio State is fully in, and it's national championship or bust.
No excuses this year. Everything is in place for Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes to not just make the college football playoff and win a Big Ten championship, but to win it all. They are one of the front runners. Can they gel as an offensive unit? That remains to be seen. When you have so many moving parts, Will Howard, you have Quinshon Judkins, you have Chip Kelly, can it meld in just one season? Because, again, the pressure's there for Ryan Day. He failed to step up a couple of years ago against Georgia in the college football playoff game, did not make second-half adjustments. And when you look at Will Howard as well, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, only 61% completion percentage, not as prolific as C.J. Stroud a couple years ago. We have to see how this plays out. The pressure is on, and they square off in Eugene week number 2. I still give the inside edge, though, Ben, to Oregon in terms of the big picture, but there's no doubt that Ohio State's going to make the playoff.
4 teams, only 4 around the country in college football have a win total of 10.5. Only Ohio State and Georgia have juice on the over. The Buckeyes, the best number, minus 150 to the over of 10 and a hook. Penn State is thankful for conference realignment. Why? Because divisions are done in the Big Ten. No longer the East versus the West, and for the Nittany Lions, no longer having to look up at the top of the East Division and see Ohio State and Michigan. Because the last 2 regular seasons, Penn State against everybody not named Ohio State and Michigan, a perfect 20-0. Against the Buckeyes and the Wolverines, 0-4. The win total 9.5 for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley this year, Joe. And the over has the heavy juice. What is your expectation for Penn State this season?
I think they could be a 9-win football team, but in their 3 losses last year to Michigan, Ohio State, and Ole Miss, Drew Aller under 50% completion percentage. How can I buy into Penn State big picture if their quarterback is not efficient? That's a cause of concern. So right now, I think they're 9-3 overall. If Drew Aller starts fast, maybe I change my assessment, but the pressure's on right now in Happy Valley.
Pressure is highly on Drew Aller, the prince that was promised at the quarterback spot, who had a disappointing first year as the starter in State College. But the good news for Penn State, they only play Ohio State. They don't have Michigan. Road trips to USC and Camp Randall to take on Wisconsin. But you see the minus 145 price for the Nittany Lions to reach the college football playoff. That is the expectation. That is what they will be judged by in terms of their level of success in 2024. Throughout the rest of the Big Ten on the other side of the break, including the West Coast newcomers, and we look at the top with the Oregon Ducks in their first year in the Big Ten, the second best price to take home a conference championship at plus 210, only behind the Buckeyes of Ohio State. What will Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks and the rest of the Pac-12 newcomers bring to the Big Ten this year? Find out next.
The WNBA is a unique market, right? It moves a little bit different. You take a bet, a limit play, even if the limit is 2 dimes on a side, you don't go from 11.5 to 12. You know what I mean? You got to go. Because if they bet you the second number, then you go, oh boy, now we have a decision that we really didn't think we got a big decision. Books love decisions.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
A Big Ten breakdown in the new look conference this upcoming college football season in 2024. It's a new look because we have 4 teams from the former Pac-12 making the trip from the West Coast to take on the Big Ten. Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, now newcomers into the Big Ten Conference. And Joe, let's start with those Ducks, a team that was favored to win the Pac-12 a season ago, that was a double-digit favorite in the final ever Pac-12 football championship game, came up short against Washington, saw the Huskies get to a national title. We'll talk about what is different this year for UW in just a moment. But Oregon's first year in the Big Ten sees the Ducks have the second best price to take home a conference title at plus 210, only behind the favorites, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Are those expectations fair? And maybe better yet, justified for the Ducks in their first season in the Big Ten?
I think they are. The 2 games that they lost last year were to the Pac-12 champion and national champion runner-up Washington Huskies. They went toe-to-toe with Michael Penix. This is a team in Dan Lanning and the Ducks that can run it. They average 184 rushing yards per game, could stop the run, only allowed 102 rushing yards to opposing offenses. He's built it from the inside out, and they get one of the most prolific quarterbacks in college football, Dylan Gabriel, that transfers over from Oklahoma, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's a mobile quarterback, and we saw the progression with Bo Nix over the past couple of seasons. Last year, Bo Nix, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 78% completion percentage. Even if you get 85% of that type of productivity, they're going to win games. It comes down to that second week of the regular season, but it's in Eugene. I love what Dan Lanning's done. I think they're going to be there in the end.
The Ducks have the third best price to reach the college football playoff at minus 250, only behind Georgia and Ohio State. Oregon needs to be a college football playoff team in this 12-team format. Again, that's what the odds makers are saying. There was some speculation after the shocking retirement of Nick Saban that maybe Dan Lanning would leave Eugene, go to Tuscaloosa. He did not. His offensive coordinator, Will Stein, remains there inside Autzen Stadium as well. The former Pac-12 head coach that made the trip to Tuscaloosa, Washington's Kalen DeBoer. After leading the Huskies to a national championship game appearance, he's now the new head man in Alabama. We'll focus on the SEC in our next segment. So in his place, Jedd Fisch leaves Arizona, goes up to Seattle. National championship runner-up a season ago, Joe, but the Huskies just a win total of 7.5 this season.
Yeah, I think they're up against it, Ben. Schedule's not going to be easy. Will Rogers, the quarterback from Mississippi State, transfers over, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but struggled with consistency, only 59% completion percentage in big matchups, failed to step up in terms of big, throwing for over 200 yards or 300 yards per game. And again, it's a new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme, only 2 starters coming back as a whole. That's a lot of pressure on Jedd Fisch in year number 1. I think they struggled to get 5 wins this season.
Think about all the players you know from Washington last year that are now in the National Football League. Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, the list goes on and on. So UCLA and USC, long shot odds for the Bruins, 170-1 to win the Big Ten in their first year. New head coach, but former UCLA player in Deshaun Foster after Chip Kelly makes the trip to Columbus. If Kevin Walsh was here, he would tell us how Lincoln Riley and USC are about to take the Big Ten by storm. What say you?
Well, I think Lincoln Riley, again, the tempered expectations, 7.5. They're 28-1 to just win the Big Ten. When's the last time we saw that in regards to USC being front runners with Caleb Williams? Miller Moss stepped up in the playoff bowl win over Louisville, 372 yards, 6 touchdowns. If he could get that type of production this season, they're going to at least win 8 games. And DeAnton Lynn comes over, new defensive coordinator. If that defense could just get a little bit better, keep them in matchups, they have the opportunity to potentially win and outscore 9 opponents. 9 wins isn't out of the realm of possibility.
The best move Lincoln Riley made this offseason, firing Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator. D'Anton Lynn takes the trip cross town from Westwood with UCLA to downtown LA to join the USC staff as the DC. Crosstown rivalries continue even into the Big Ten. Quickly here, a team to keep an eye on in the Big Ten we haven't mentioned.
Well, I think you got to keep an eye out for Iowa. I mean, the offense couldn't get any worse than than it was last year. Tim Lester comes over, the new offensive coordinator, and their 4 losses, Ben, they were shut out 3 times and completed only 43% of their passes. If they get a little bit better quarterback production, they could win 9 or 10 football games.
Can Nebraska get to a bowl game for the first time in nearly a decade? And mark my words, your Rutgers Scarlet Knights are going to win 8 games this year over the win total of 6.5. That over has some plus money at the moment. From the Big Ten to the SEC, we go next live right here on College Football Today's Summer Special.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Live Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the crushers and Annie Brown winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie, then that little putt from Annie Brown on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
From the Big Ten to the SEC. Now, there is only a Power 4 remaining in college football. The Big Ten, SEC, joined by the ACC and the Big 12 after the dissolution of the Pac-12. But there's really a Big 2 of the Power 4. We hit on the Big Ten, now to the Southeastern Conference, where it just means more college football programs. Oklahoma and Texas enter the SEC this year. The flag bearers, the standard bearers of the Big 12, the powerhouse programs now make the trip to the Southeastern Conference. But still at the top of the table, Joe, it's a familiar name. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. UGA booked as the favorites to win the SEC at plus 185. And despite winning 2 national championships in the last 3 years, Georgia has only won the SEC once in that 3-year span, falling short against Alabama in both 2021 and a season ago. Like in the Big Ten, Oregon, a newcomer, second best price. Texas, the newcomer to the SEC, second best number at plus 310.
It's going to be intriguing to see how Texas and Oklahoma handle the Big 12, the SEC schedule from the Big 12, because we saw Big 12 teams, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF struggle with the week to week. And we saw Texas Texas go into Tuscaloosa as a 6.5-point dog and get the victory. You could do it maybe 1 week. Can you do it for 12 or 13 weeks?
Yeah.
If they can, then Texas is going to be there. I think Texas does have a better shot than Oklahoma this year. Quinn Ewers comes back. But again, we're going to see these games play out. Georgia travels to Texas in early October, and we see Georgia and Alabama squaring off in late September. So this really will dictate how the SEC championship plays out this year.
You look at the SEC conference schedules now for the 16-member institutions of this league, and I would not wish that on even my own worst enemy. Some have it more favorable. For instance, the Longhorns' first year in the SEC, in comparison, not as bad as their Red River rivals, Oklahoma. Oh, boy, we'll talk about the Sooners in just a little bit. But let's start with a team normally we would see at the top. But right now, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the fourth best price to win the SEC title at plus 950. With all of the changes just in the overall landscape, expanded CFP, conference realignment, one of the biggest changes is no more Nick Saban, retiring this past offseason after 17 years at the helm in Tuscaloosa. Taking over is Kalen DeBoer. And it's a win total that many Crimson Tide faithful are not used to seeing. 9.5 in the under has the juice. What can we expect from Kalen DeBoer and his Tide program in his opening year in Tuscaloosa?
I think quarterback efficiency. That's the one thing that he coached up Michael Penix and leading that team to a national championship appearance. They're going to spread it and throw it, but, Alabama's up against it. They potentially lose their best offensive weapon in regards to Isaiah Bond. Yeah. Now with the Texas Longhorns, you lose your lockdown corner, Caleb Downs, to Ohio State. And again, Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, coached up Fresno State and Washington, but this is like coaching in the tri-state New York area. The pressure and expectations are there from year one. 9-3 isn't acceptable in Tuscaloosa, so we'll see how this plays out. But again, I think the pressure is on Jalen Milroe, and the offensive line is a cause of concern. 43, 44 sacks allowed, one of the worst in Alabama over the past 5 seasons. They need to shore that up to have success.
It might have been the thing that sent Nick Saban to retirement. He was so mad about the O-line play a year ago, and we saw it on full display in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. 9-3 still might keep Alabama in consideration for the college football playoff. But, boy, they haven't won less than double-digit games in a long time. You'd have to go all the way back to Nick Saban's debut year in Tuscaloosa. That was 2007. Alabama fans that are a little bit younger might not remember this, but in the 10 years before Nick Saban, 4 years with a losing record. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Jalen Milroe still there in Tuscaloosa. Should be great under Kalen DeBoer, but just slightly reset those expectations. So we looked at the Georgia Bulldogs with the best price to win the SEC. Again, 2 teams have a win total of 10.5 nationally, where the over has the juice. Ohio State out of the Big Ten, the Bulldogs out of the SEC. Joe, in the last 3 seasons, Georgia has lost 2 games, both in the SEC championship against Alabama. That is a 42-2 record with 2 national championships and a 60-point blowout victory in the Orange Bowl to boot last December. What do you think Georgia is in store for here in 2024?
A dynamic season. I think 11 wins or bust. I think they have potentially the best quarterback, at least returning in the SEC, that being Carson Beck, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 5 games last year. Ben, he threw for over 300 yards. They won those 5 games by an average margin of victory of 26.1 points per game, 6 starters coming back on defense. And we know Kirby Smart coaches up just like Dan Lanning, right? His assistant coaches up the offense and defensive lines. If they can run the football, they're going to win ball games as well. There is offensive balance. That crazy statistic that I throw out, since 2016, every time Georgia pounds the rock for over 200, they are an amazing 49-0 against FBS and FCS opponents. FBS victories, 45-0 by 30 points per game. They are going to be a difficult out. Best team in the SEC heading into 2024.
And oftentimes, Joe, over the span of the last 3 years, we started the defensive conversation first with Georgia. Carson Beck is back. He is the Heisman Trophy favorite, as we'll discuss in just a little bit here on CFT's Summer Special. He was a top 10 passer last year in college football. Keep an eye on that Bulldogs offense. However, the schedule for Georgia this year is not as easy as it was a year ago. They open up against Clemson. They're a 2-touchdown favorite. For the first time, or only the second time rather, since 2012, Georgia and Alabama will face off in the regular season. That is the end of September, week number 4 in Tuscaloosa. Texas and Ole Miss on the docket for the Bulldogs as well. Speaking of the Running Rebs, it's a team you mentioned already, Joe, that you are high on. You couple them with your other favorite LSU SEC team in the Tigers. What can we expect both first out of Lane Kiffin and his Rebs and Brian Kelly and his Bayou Bengals?
Well, I think first with LSU, you look at Ole Miss, a dynamic offense. Jackson Dart spearheads that. He's a mobile quarterback, 20-plus touchdowns. He averaged well over 2 touchdowns, I believe, in the last 5 games of the regular season. They can run it. They get LSU transfer Logan Diggs that comes over. That defense, though, was the most impressive thing at the end of the regular season. They only allowed it from a passing perspective in the secondary, 229 passing yards per game, forced 13 interceptions. If they could take the next step in terms of progression, I think they're at least a 10-win football team. They are one of my teams to crack the college football playoff. For Brian Kelly and LSU, Nussmeier takes over. I like them as well, plus 125 to make the playoff. Again, physical in terms of the offensive line, but that defense, now with the adjustments that they have made and hopefully the resurgence of Harold Perkins, I think they're a 10-win football team as well.
Defense has to be better. LSU played 13 games last year. 12 of the 13 hit the over because of how poor the defense was. But everybody on the defensive staff is now gone and replaced. I thought it was family down there in Baton Rouge.
He puts money in my pocket. He's family.
For you, it was. On the defensive side of the football, not so much. Garrett Nussmeier remains. There are 7 teams with a minus money price to see the college football playoff in 2024. Ole Miss is one of them with a minus 125 number. We'll get to the newcomers in just a second. I would like to highlight a couple of other teams in the SEC. Missouri, also a win total of 9.5. Brady Cook is back. Luther Burden is back. This team is going to air it out this year under Eli Drinkwitz. I think they are going to be a pest for many in the SEC. Quarterback Nico of the Tennessee Volunteers. Nico Iamaleava is the quarterback now in Knoxville. Last year, more on the ground for Josh Heupel and the Vols. This year, I would expect the aerial attack to be back in Tennessee. Any other teams that catch your eye in the SEC?
Well, I think you got to keep an eye out at Texas A&M and Mike Elko. I want to see how they progress from an offensive perspective. We know how good of a defensive game planner he is. Starts week 1 against his former team, Notre Dame. So see how that plays out. Keep an eye out for A&M. Much more physical in year 1 with Elko.
8.5 the win total for the Aggies. How about their longtime rivals that are back as their conference foes, the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners? We break them down up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Conference realignment is no longer a thing in the future for college football. It is here. And it might seem like it wasn't all that long ago, but just a few summers back, it was Texas and Oklahoma that really got this whole shindig underway. When it was announced that OU and Texas would be leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, it was unheard of. It was earth-shattering, and now it is a reality. The Sooners and the Longhorns, they take their rivalry and now join the Southeastern Conference. Joe, we have talked about it in the Big Ten. Oregon, a newcomer, second best price to win that conference crown. Texas, a newcomer to the SEC, second best price to win that conference championship. But last year, the Longhorns were a college football playoff team, reaching the Sugar Bowl and a CFP semi before getting beat by the Washington Huskies. Year 2 to year 3 for Steve Sarkisian was filled with so much improvement in Austin. What about year 4 and year 1 in the SEC?
Well, I think they could be up against it. That doesn't mean they're going to be a 7-win football team, but I think 9-3 is right in the area where I would pick the Texas Longhorns. I'm not picking them to win the SEC championship and certainly not the national championship. They lose defensive playmakers, especially in terms of the front seven. They lose their two big play wide receivers, Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, and that's going to put pressure on. I know Isaiah Bond is there, but that defense played like an SEC caliber unit. They only allowed 82 rushing yards per game and 2.9 yards per rush, but that was against Big 12 opponents. Can they do it against SEC offensive lines? I need to see it. Again, I'm picking them 9-3. That doesn't mean it's not successful in year 1, but the expectation is through the roof in Austin. I can't buy it.
Through a $2 price for Texas right now, minus 230 to reach the college football playoff, fourth best number in the nation. Only Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon have better prices. And although it is an SEC schedule, it is not nearly as bad for Texas as it is for Oklahoma. The Red River rivalry will continue in Dallas the second weekend of October. But that's followed for the Longhorns by a trip back home to Austin in a game against Georgia. Outside of that, not all that bad, but the regular season finale should be fun. One of the longest standing rivalries in all of college football that has not been played since 2010 when these two teams left the Big 12, when A&M went to the SEC and Texas remained behind. The Lone Star State showdown between the Aggies and the Longhorns is back. And if you paid attention to any of the baseball that just happened in the collegiate level, there's a lot of bad blood between these two rivals and fan bases. Still, the win total for Texas is up there, 10.5. Expected to be a double-digit win team. Expected to see the CFP once again. Things are a little bit more tempered in terms of the expectation in Norman for Oklahoma in its first year in the SEC, but a recent extension of Brent Venables will make him one of the highest-paid coaches in college football and keep him at the helm of this Sooners program for a very long time. 7.5. The win total for OU, not the double digits of their rival. That is Texas. What can we hope for out of OU this season?
I think they're a bowl team. Is that good? If Dylan Gabriel was the quarterback of the Sooners, I might have maybe an 8-win football team under their belt. Let's not forget, Dylan Gabriel solely was responsible for handing Texas their only regular season loss last year in terms of the Red River rivalry. Now it's Jackson Arnold. Does show optimism. Did 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the bowl loss against Arizona, and Oklahoma got much more physical in terms of run support, only allowed 138 rushing yards per game, but again, they lose a lot in terms of the defensive starters, only 4 starters coming back. That is going to put pressure on Brett Venables defensively, and I don't think the offense is going to be that consistent or explosive as Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns, so going under the 7.5 this year.
I think it's a wise under, and I don't bet a lot of offseason unders on a win total, and I believe in Jackson Arnold. Darnold. He is the future at the quarterback position for a program that has had a lot of success at the QB position the last decade. But here's the schedule, just in SEC play for Oklahoma. Home games against Tennessee and Alabama. They continue the Red River rivalry against Texas, who has the fourth best price to reach the college football playoff. And how about your road trips to learn how things work in the Southeastern Conference to Jordan-Hare against Auburn? And that's not that bad in comparison. A road trip to Oxford to take on Ole Miss, Columbia to take on Missouri, and they end the year in Death Valley and Baton Rouge to take on LSU. Oklahoma got the harder of the two schedules in a large way than in comparison to their conference foes then and now in Texas.
Oh, they absolutely did. And you bring up Missouri. I think Missouri has the longest home winning streak in all of FBS with 28 games. So it's not going to be easy for Oklahoma to just waltz in. And some of these other teams outside the big three, right? The LSUs, the Georgias, and the Alabamas, those other teams like Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, they have their eyes set on a 12-team playoff as well. So when Oklahoma comes into town, they're not going to take them for granted, especially playing in the SEC for the first season.
And again, it's not just conference realignment at the Big Two part of the Power Four leagues, which when you look at the Big Ten and the SEC, we had divisions in both of these conferences a season ago. Big Ten East and West, SEC East and West, with the two champs of both divisions meeting up in the conference championship game. Because of realignment, no longer, which you think would open the door on both sides. Ole Miss, Auburn, A&M, LSU saying, all right, hey, we don't have to beat Alabama just to get to Atlanta for an SEC championship game. Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, happy it's not the SEC East with Georgia at the top. If you had to pick two teams to play in the SEC title game in early December, I put you on the spot right now, my friend. Who are you looking at, or who do you think is the best wager to do so?
I think Georgia and LSU. I'm going to go. I think Georgia's definitely going to be there because of the veteran quarterback experience of Carson Beck and how Kirby Smart recruits from a defensive perspective. And LSU as well in year 3 with Brian Kelly. Now this is where you really see the recruiting angle for what BK has brought in terms of Baton Rouge. I don't think that defense can get any worse. I think Harold Perkins maybe will be back in terms of an edge rusher. Him and Greg Penn, the defensive specialist, I think could step up. Again, he's coached up quarterbacks over the past couple of seasons, even though it was Jaden Daniels. I'm expecting a breakout from Nussmeier this year.
And it is rare in the transfer portal era to see a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who has a very high prospect level, to stay in a place, learn behind Jaden Daniels, and then take over the starting role. Blake Baker, Missouri's former DC, goes in conference. He's now the new defensive coordinator with LSU. That side of the football needs to be better. Heisman Trophy odds up next.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
It's very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
I feel like when there's this wind at this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this is one of those days for me, so I relished it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
You can consider this summer school here on College Football Today to get you up to speed for 2024 college football's season. So consider this then your Heisman history class. In the 10-year history of the college football playoff featuring 4 teams, 8 of the 10 winners played the quarterback position. 7 of the 10 Heisman Trophy winners either won a conference championship game, played in the college football playoff, or reached the national title. Often team success in CFP correlates with individual success as well. So a 12-team era of a college football playoff with more teams staying in the national conversation deeper into November, into early December, Joe, in theory, should open up the Heisman Trophy race.
It will, and even for the group of 5 teams, I believe, as well. Last year with Liberty and Caden Salter, he might have been in the mix in regards to the Heisman Trophy because of the dynamic numbers that he put up, and maybe it will open up the door for a position this year. We saw Devontae Smith a few years ago, but it's been about 8 seasons since Derrick Henry hoisted the hardware in regards to the Heisman Trophy, and that's where I'm backing all running backs this year. I think the potential for teams to run the football, get back. We saw the transition in regards to more balanced attack in the NFL. I think that transition could hold true in college football this year. You look at some players that I'm high on, Donovan Edwards at 100-1, Ali Gordon 100-1. The list goes on and on. There's a number of different running backs that could hoist it this year.
And here's another Heisman history lesson for you as well. For the first time in now 3 seasons in college football, we don't have the returning Heisman winner back in the sport. Bryce Young won the award in 2021, was back playing college football in the 2022 campaign. Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy that year, striking the pose. He was back in CFB at USC a season ago. Jaden Daniels won it. He's now the quarterback of the Washington Commanders. So let's look at those Heisman Trophy prices for this 2024 season. Carson Beck, the quarterback for Georgia, is the favorite entering the year at plus 750, but still a relatively long number. $1.50 in front of Quinn Ewers, a 9-1 price on the signal caller for the Texas Longhorns. And Dylan Gabriel, after knocking off Texas in the Red River rivalry last year at Oklahoma, was in the Heisman Trophy conversation, Joe, but he's no longer in Norman. He's in Eugene as the quarterback of the Oregon Ducks. His price 10-1.
Again, when you look at that list right there, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would take a shot on Dylan Gabriel because of the versatility and how he stepped up in terms of big matchups, and people know Dylan Gabriel. It's not to take away from Quinn Ewers, it's just that I believe Dan Lanning and Oregon are a little bit more consistent from an offense and defensive perspective than the Longhorns entering 2024. But again, they have to produce and they have to win. That week 2 matchup, if Dylan Gabriel lights it up, he'll be right there with Carson Beck, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely so. The stats are going to be there in a Dan Lanning and Will Stein offense in Oregon. We would expect the stats to be there for Carson Beck as well. Had the 5th most passing yards in college football a season ago. And again, the Georgia Bulldogs, not just a stout defense, they can be explosive offensively. Quinn Ewers, record numbers in the Big 12 title game for Texas. They are going to air it out across the yard. You mentioned Isaiah Bond, transferring from Alabama, now in Austin. Silas Bolden from Oregon State to Texas as well. The weapons and pieces in place for Quinn Ewers. If you were looking deeper down the board, where would you go? And it's okay if it's a running back.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the running backs. Quarterback-wise, Jackson Dart, to me, 15-1 and 16-1, depending upon the books that you shop. I think he has great value because we know Lane Kiffin wants to throw it. He wants to run it as well. They average well over 30 points per game, and they pounded Big Ten opponent Penn State in the bowl game. They're going to have their opportunities against top 25 competition. Keep an eye out for him. Again, I mentioned Ali Gordon. Quinshon Judkins comes over from Ole Miss, 1,000-yard rusher, well over 5 yards per carry. You implement Quinshon Judkins with Travion Henderson in Chip Kelly's offense, they could put up dynamic numbers, and if they knock off Michigan at the end of the regular season, it could be his to lose.
Look up the stats of Chip Kelly offenses inside Autzen Stadium at Oregon. They are dominant on the ground. Same story at UCLA. I expect huge numbers out of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Will Howard, the quarterback in Columbus, tied for that fourth best price. If I was looking for a sleeper, a little bit more down the board, it would be K-State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, 25-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. A dynamic quarterback who appeared in 8 games last year during his true freshman season, 5 touchdown passes, 7 rushing touchdowns, and won the Pop-Tart Bowl MVP award. We have never not seen a Pop-Tart Bowl MVP award winner win the Heisman Trophy the very next year because it's never happened before. But anyway, we'll keep forecasting the 2024 college football season as we roll on in our College Football Today Summer Special.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta. It's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind at this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Live Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the Crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Pooch birdie eight, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
Welcome back to our College Football Today Summer Special. He is the mastermind of the CFP Pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Again, with all the changes that we are seeing in the 2024 college football campaign, one of the biggest is conference realignment, which means there is no longer a Power 5. The Pac-12 says goodbye. It is just a Power 4. We started with the Big Ten and the SEC, but do not overlook either the Big 12 or the ACC. And Joe, I think from a betting perspective, the Big 12 stands out to me the most. First, the realignment, the new teams that enter the fold. the four corner schools: Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, now joining the Big 12 Conference. But this league is stacked, or at least stacked in a competitive way. 8 teams with a 12-1 price to win the conference crown. That is half of the 16 schools now in this conference, by far the most at that number or shorter to win a conference championship this year, and all separated by less than $9. And it starts with Utah, the newcomer, but the betting favorites to win the Big 12 title at a plus 310 price.
And Cam Rising, their star quarterback, does return. How does he return from the ACL injury that he sustained about a year and a half ago? That will really tell how successful Utah is, because from an offensive perspective, Ben, only 15 touchdowns through the air, 11 interceptions. As a team, they only threw for 1,550 yards. They were one-dimensional in multiple ball games, and that put their defense in terms of a disadvantage. So Cam Rising is the key to this offense this year. Again, there's a lot of pressure on Kyle Whittingham. On paper, they look like the most physical and most complete team, but this conference could be the most competitive throughout the Power Four this year.
And the odds ever changing, of course, here in the offseason, plus 310, plus 290, around $3, wherever you get the number. And that's the big thing for the Utah Utes in making this move to the Big 12. The retention of Cam Rising, the fact that he is staying in college football. Tore his ACL, the knee injury against Penn State in the 2023 Rose Bowl. That was 2 Januaries ago. It is almost going to be 18 calendar months since we have seen Cam Rising take his last college football snap, but he is back as the quarterback for the Utes. I mentioned Avery Johnson and K-State, second best price to win the Big 12 title. If Kyle Whittingham is consistency as one of the longest tenured head coaches in college football, Chris Kleiman is starting to build that in the Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas. A lot to like this year with Avery Johnson, DJ Giddens, and a stout rushing attack that is featured with a good defense as well.
Absolutely, and you look at Avery Johnson, he abused the Texas Tech Red Raiders for multiple touchdown runs in terms of that victory last season. If he can elevate in terms of the passing attack, take over for where Will Howard was, and even produce better, they're going to be right there. Chris Kleiman, much like Dan Lanning, it coaches it from the inside out. They're very physical in terms of the defensive front seven, only allowed basically less than 25 points per game over the last month and a half of the regular season. Again, a very physical team that likes to run it. As they run it, they win ball games. So we'll see how this plays out. They deserve to be there right there in regards to number 2 overall. But keep an eye out for Matt Campbell and Iowa State. They're lurking in the background with Rocco Beck. They lost the bowl game, but this team has a bunch of returning starters along with Oklahoma State.
85% of the returning production from a season ago is back in Ames. That is the most at the Power Conference level. That is the most in all of FBS college football across the entirety of the country. Rocco Beck, because of the gambling situation with Hunter Deckers entering last year for Iowa State, was thrust into that position, but learned from it and gained invaluable experience. His 2 top targets are back for Iowa State's offense as well. His entire offensive line returns. So much returning production. I love the Cyclones to go over 7.5. And Joe, if I think Iowa State can go over 7.5, to speak to the competitive balance of the Big 12, you see those 8 teams that we listed at a 12-1 price or shorter. That includes Central Florida. That's half the league. UCF's win total is 7.5, and the juice is pretty evenly distributed. It means the ceiling in this conference might not be all that high, but the floor not all that low either.
No, and think about the quarterback play in this conference. Potentially, they have the most dynamic quarterbacks maybe from top to bottom. You got KJ Jefferson that transfers in from UCF. Garrett Green that came on for West Virginia. Jalen Daniels returns for Kansas. We saw and talked about Cam Rising and Avery Johnson. I mean, Brennan Morton for Texas Tech. I mean, Noah Fafita. I mean, the list goes on and on in regards to the depth at the quarterback position, and that's why I think there's a number of teams that could come out in regards to a Big 12 championship. I love the job that Joey McGuire has done in terms of a culture perspective in Lubbock. Right now, their win total 7.5. He returns 18 starters as well. Taj Brooks, one of the most productive rushing leaders in all FBS, comes back. He can run it. He can catch it. And that defense defense showed that they were physical, won back-to-back bowl games. If they could start fast, keep an eye out for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders this year.
West Virginia in Kansas both won 9 games with a bowl victory a season ago. The Mountaineers' win total is 6.5. The over has the juice. Kansas, not basketball. Kansas football in Lawrence has the third best price to win the Big 12 championship this season entering this year. It speaks to what Lance Leipold, the program builder, has built for KU. 9 victories a season ago, and that was in large part without maybe one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in all of the Big 12, in all of the country, Jalen Daniels, who should be healthy this year. No Frosted Flakes commercials for you, Jalen Daniels, this offseason. And, of course, with the newcomers into the Big 12, we have to highlight Colorado. Prime era year 2 in Boulder. CU off to an illustrious start at the beginning of last season. 4 wins by the time September was done, over their preseason win total of 3.5. Immediate improvement from a 1-win season the year prior to Deion Sanders taking the reins in Boulder. But from that point on, not many more wins. In fact, no more wins for Colorado, a 4-8 record. 5.5 the win total for the Buffs entering 2024. Things are a little bit different in terms of the scale and everything that follows Coach Prime, and that's the notoriety that he wants and Colorado, frankly, deserves. But what does it mean from a success perspective? What does success look like this season for CU?
6-6 bowl eligibility. That's what it has to be. And Deion did a fantastic job in year 1. Started right from the get-go, 20.5-point underdog, knockout TCU. Offensive line needs to get better. Shedeur Sanders hit multiple times and sacked 50-plus times last year. They could not run it, dead last in FBS, averaging 68 rushing yards per game. If they could have that type of success, more offensive balance, that'll lead to 6 or potential 7 wins, and that is success in year number 2.
When you look at the Heisman Trophy odds, Shedeur Sanders is a little bit down the list at 40-1. You could keep going to the dynamic playmaker who does it all in Travis Hunter at 65-1 as well. Both have legitimate shots in being in the Heisman Trophy conversation throughout the 2024 college football campaign. Colorado will be on center stage week number 1, a primetime game for Coach Prime. The Thursday night before the first full Saturday against FCS powerhouse North Dakota State. It is less than a 2-score spread. Frankly, I can't believe Colorado scheduled the game, but we'll see what happens. Followed by a trip to Lincoln the following Saturday in week number 2 against what we both expect to be an improved Nebraska Cornhuskers football program. Deion Sanders has built his program through the transfer portal. Transfers out, transfers in. They are hoping for the talent to gel together quickly this year in Boulder. We both like UCF's win total, by the way, at 7.5. Oklahoma State, what's their outlook after reaching the Big 12 title game last year?
I think they could be a 9-win football team. Defense has to get much better. They weren't physical, got worn down by Texas in regards to the championship game, but they can run it. Ollie Gordon comes back, 100-1 shot to win the Heisman. Run it, Ollie!
The nation's leading rusher from a season ago, OG2, Ollie Gordon II, is back in college football. Big 12, ACC, that's where we go up next, live right here on CFT.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the three teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream Team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those two teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on College Football Today's Summer Special. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. We now turn our attention to the ACC. Some insight and analysis to get you ready for a new year within the Atlantic Coast Conference. Of course, we have seen conference realignment at all of the power conference leagues. That includes the ACC, the Atlantic Seaboard, and the Pacific Seaboard up in Northern California. Cal in Stanford joined the ACC, as well as a team from the Lone Star State out of Dallas. It is SMU after an 11-win season and an AAC conference championship and its final year in that league. But, Joe, when you look at the ACC title odds, you start at the top. And, frankly, it is a tier of 3 from the odds maker's perspective. Of course, after the disappointing result at the end of a perfect and undefeated 13-0 run to an ACC championship, Florida State was left out of the college football playoff in the final year of 4, hoping to be there in the first year of 12 teams. Plus 270 on the Noles in front of Clemson, the Tigers 4-1. And then in the tier of 3, all teams separated by just over $1.50, the Miami Hurricanes at plus 440. Do you think there is a clear distinction between these 3 teams and the rest of the conference?
Well, I think there's a clear distinction between the top 2 teams and then the third team, which is based strictly, in my opinion, based off optimism in Mario Cristobal in South Beach with their new quarterback Cam Ward and Damian Martinez. So, yes, I do think there is separation. Personally, I would have Jeff Brom and Louisville slightly ahead of the Miami Hurricanes, even though they move on from Jack Plummer to Tyler Shuck. Doesn't matter. Louisville knocked off Miami in their house last year as a 1-point favorite, and Jeff Brom proved he can get to an ACC championship. So we'll see how this season plays out. I think it is intriguing. I think we could see 2 teams from this potential conference step up. Schedule is light, but I like the chances of both the Noles and Tigers respectively.
So as you look at the top 15 prices to win a national championship, only 3 schools are not from either the Big Ten or the SEC. Listen, it's a new era. It's the 12-team college football playoff. Notre Dame, who is not in a league independent. We'll talk about the independents in the group of 5 in just a little bit. But also 2 teams out of the ACC, Florida State and Clemson. We'll get to the Tigers in a moment. First, we start with the Noles. Joe, in December, they were the focus of the entire country in college football. Again, one of 15 undefeated Power 5 conference champions in the 10-year history of the 4-team format of the college football playoff. And the only of those 15 schools to be an undefeated Power 5 champ to not reach the college football playoff. And then a lot of people pointed at the Orange Bowl, where Florida State had a ton of players opt out. They legitimately lost by 60 against the Georgia Bulldogs. That's not hyperbole. It was a 60-point difference, and said, see, FSU, you didn't really deserve it. But that's not what we give. It's not recognition for what you have done in a bowl game that rewards your regular season and conference championship size success. But I digress. one of the reasons, Joe, they struggled so much against Georgia in the bowl game in the Orange Bowl is because of all the opt-outs. And I think most importantly, the opt-outs that weren't there for the bowl game was because everybody was preparing to take a step to the next level. Jordan Travis, when you look at Travis Benson and everybody that or Trey Benson, and everybody that they had, Jared Verse on the other side of the football, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, so much talent now in the National Football League, but a familiar name within this conference takes the reins at the quarterback position. DJ Uiagalelei, after 2 years at Oregon State, or a season at Oregon State, back in the ACC after starting his career at Clemson. What is your expectation for Florida State this year?
I think they're going to win the ACC, and I think Mike Norvell has done a fantastic job. I was critical of them a couple of years ago, but he rebounded in a big way in back-to-back seasons, and it wasn't just offensively, Ben. It's what they've been able to do from a defensive perspective. We've talked about it on the radio side in terms of top 10, top 25 talent from the NFL position. 2 years ago, it was Jermaine Johnson. Last year, this year, it was Jared Fisk and Jared Verse that stepped up in regards to being drafted first couple of rounds. They have done a fantastic job in terms of the interior line play, and that's why I think they'll be there. One of the best secondaries in regards to FBS, only giving up 179 passing yards to opposing offenses. They rushed for 32 touchdowns on the ground, and DJU, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, over 3,100 passing yards last year. As long as he doesn't turn the football over, he brings veteran experience within the conference. I'm banking on the Seminoles to be an 11 or a 12-win football team.
To me, they're the bet within the ACC at plus 270. Clemson, Joe, went on a streak where they won 6 consecutive ACC championships entering 2021, and they made the college football playoff each and every year. Down year in 2021, bounced back with an ACC title in 2022, make that 7 of 8. Last year, one of the worst under Dabo Swinney. 4 ACC losses. How do you expect Clemson to bounce back?
Well, in a big way. It's got to be Cade Klubnik. Last year, inconsistent, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Go back to that game in Death Valley against Florida State. He held the football too long. That was a 14-point turnaround that allowed the Seminoles to win it in Death Valley in overtime. You look at the stats, 74-7 prior to last year, Clemson was against ACC opponents. They lost 4 games, started right from week 1 where they lost as a double-digit favorite on the road to Duke. They need to step up in a big way. But again, the schedule starts fast. They have to give their best effort against the top-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, 13.5-point dog already. They're playing with house money. If somehow, some way, Ben, they could strike the upset, they're a legitimate top 10 team automatically, and then their college football playoff odds go from plus 205 to probably negative.
13.5-point dog in the opener against the Dogs. The first time Clemson had more than 2 conference losses in ACC play a season ago since 2010. That was year number 2 under Dabo Swinney. Quickly here, Joe. Miami, big chest, Mario Cristobal. There is a thought from an optimistic odds perspective that Miami this year, in year 3 under Cristobal, can recreate the success of Sark last year in year 3 in Austin, but I take it you're not buying.
I'm not buying yet. We saw this with De'Ara King a couple years ago. Cam Ward is a legitimate playmaker, over 3,000 yards, leading Washington State 2 years ago to a bowl game. But again, it's the consistency on the defensive side of the ball, not physical, and that falls on Mario Cristobal. I need to see it before I believe it.
Just 6-7 in his 2 years as the head coach in South Florida. 2 teams to keep an eye on within the ACC, Louisville, like Joe mentioned, and Virginia Tech, the most returning starters at the power conference level in all of college football. Some big plus money on the other side of the break in the Heisman Trophy race. Up next.
The WNBA is a unique market, right? It moves a little bit different. You take a bet, a limit play, even if the limit is 2 dimes on the side, you don't go from 11.5 to 12. You know what I mean? You got to go. Got to go. Because if they bet you the second number, then you go, oh boy, now we have a decision that we really didn't think we got a big decision. Books love decisions.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's give you some big plus money. It's one of our favorite things to do on a week-to-week basis on college football today. And oftentimes, Joe, it's a big money line underdog that we think might be able to keep a game close, cover a number, and if they do so, pull off a large upset. But here we are in the preseason. It's the summer, so we look at the Heisman Trophy race. Where do we do that? In the vault. It is time for Go for the Loot. I'm not used to doing that.
I was just going to say.
It's a little bit strange.
We're missing our third wheel there. What happened?
He'll be here.
In memory, he's with us.
Always.
In spirit.
Always in spirit. Kevin Walsh will be here throughout the entirety of the college football season. So we're looking at those big plus money prices. And before we name the actual guys that we think will be involved in the Heisman Trophy race, it is also fair to say Carson Beck is the favorite at plus 750. It's not a minus money favorite. It's not less than a $5 favorite. It's certainly not less than a plus 250 favorite. So all of these prices are long shots. But oftentimes the preseason Heisman Trophy favorites are not the guys there the second weekend in December in Manhattan trying to strike the pose. So these long shot prices are all long shot prices. Lisi, who is a player in college football you would like to highlight?
I'm going to go to Donovan Edwards, and we talk about being able to pound the rock in Michigan. He's 100 to 1 shot, and big game Donovan got me the victory in the national championship game. 2 tutties at 10 to 1, baby. We're going to continue that momentum. He is the go-to guy, only 497 rushing yards last year, but he is a big play threat that could take it from point A to point B. I talked about Sharon Moore in the 2 games that he coached. They rushed it for 84 times, 42 per game in both of those wins over Maryland and Penn State, especially with the lack of success at the quarterback position. Jack Tuttle, Alex Orji will be battling it out in terms of fall camp. We don't know what to expect in regards to that. I expect Michigan to run the football early and often. And let's not forget, last 3 regular seasons, every time Michigan pounds the rock for over 200, they're undefeated as well. It starts week number 2 against Texas. If big game Donovan pounds it for over 200 and multiple touchdowns, give me the money, baby. I'll take the 100 to 1 shot.
And big game Donovan Edwards was there at the end of the 2022 college football season, taking over for the injured Blake Corum, rushing for nearly 200, maybe even over that against Purdue in the Big Ten title game. So we expected, even with the return of Blake Corum last year to Ann Arbor, for Donovan Edwards to be there once again. The regular season production, not illustrious, but what he did in that national title game and the plus money he has already cashed for Joe Lisi, why not a 100 to 1 shot as well? Of course, the last running back to win a Heisman Trophy, Derrick Henry, back in 2015, the very first year of the college football playoff era, or the second year of it, excuse me. So as we go around the country, here's a guy that I've already highlighted, but would also like to add into the fold once again. Avery Johnson, the quarterback for Kansas State. We'll focus on the player to begin. 8 games last year as a true freshman. 5 touchdowns, 7 more rushing scores. Because of his emergence as the guy who was taking over for the program and Will Howard's departure to Ohio State, he is that quarterback, one of the best within the Big 12. There is what he can do as a dynamic athlete. There is what he put up in K-State's victory over NC State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, a bowl game that swept the nation, of which Avery Johnson ate the live mascot as the Pop-Tart Bowl MVP. It is going to be a bit entering this year. We have never not seen the winner of the Pop-Tart Bowl MVP award win the Heisman Trophy the following season. But in further talking points, Joe, it's also because of the college football playoff. I have mentioned it. In the 10-year history of the 4-team format of the CFP, 7 of the 10 guys at least reached the conference championship games and led their team to a college football playoff appearance. Because there are more spots open to reach the CFP, and K-State has the second best price to win the Big 12 and try to earn one of those automatic berths as the 5 highest ranked conference champs, I think Avery Johnson and many others from the power conference level have a great shot of striking the pose and striking a huge plus money ticket cashing.
Yeah, it's a great look. He had 7 rushing touchdowns in 7 games, and he stepped up 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. You don't turn the football over and you lead your team to wins, especially against top 25 competition. You're going to have an opportunity to be sitting in New York, and that's all you want, Ben. Give me a seat at the party. As this season progresses, Avery Johnson could put up huge numbers in the Big 12.
It is now his show in the Little Apple in Manhattan. K-State, second best price again at plus 350 to win the Big 12. We'll talk about the college football playoff and the reminders that you need to know in the expanded 12-team era up next. And if the non-power conference teams now have a seat at the table, we'll do that here on CFT.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when this windy, this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Live Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the Crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Pooch birdie, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
In the new 12-team format of the college football playoff, here is how the field breaks down. 5 automatic berths for the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 7 at-large bids. Theoretically, it could just be the 5 highest-ranked conference title winners. That could be a team from the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the MAC, and the Sun Belt. Often how it works, though, is we give credence to the Power 4 conferences, the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC. Those 4 conference champions will be ranked higher than anybody from the group of 5. But that does allow a spot for the 5th highest-ranked conference champ from the non-power conference level. We will debate what that looks like in the 12-team CFP era. And, of course, at stake, one of those at-large bids potentially for Notre Dame. Again, there are just 7 teams nationally that have a minus money price favored to reach the college football playoff in its first year of 12 in 2024. And Notre Dame is one of those 7 teams, Joe, at minus 170. The win total for the Fighting Irish, 10.5, and the under has the juice at minus 170. An indication that if Notre Dame can at least get to 10 wins, the Fighting Irish will be in the college football playoff. Is the path that crystal clear for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame?
I think it is, and it starts with the quarterback position. Riley Leonard taking over for Sam Hartman. We talked about Riley Leonard being a dual-threat quarterback. He stepped up in Duke, was hurt towards the end of the regular season, but he is an added dimension in regards to the offense for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame averaged well over 170 rushing yards per game. Audric Estime moves on to the NFL, but you have 4 starters coming back on the offensive line, and we saw them win 10 ball games last year, including the bowl game. So, again, there is the potential. Starts week 1 against Texas A&M. Schedule is a little bit light, Ben, so I don't see any way for Notre Dame is not a 10-win football team. 11 wins, I think, is the top. They're going to have maybe 1 loss throughout the regular season, but everything is there for the taking for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame.
And here is the debate around the Irish in the 12-team format of the college football playoff. Because Notre Dame is an independent FBS football program and does not belong to a conference, they will never earn an automatic berth to the college football playoff. The top 4, the 4 highest-ranked conference champs, all earn an opening round bye. Notre Dame will never have the opportunity, at least in this format, by these rules, to earn an opening round bye in the CFP. What Notre Dame can do is can host a college football playoff game on campus under the watchful eye of Touchdown Jesus in South Bend as one of the top 5 to 8 seeds in the college football playoff. But that's the distinction. In my estimation, Joe, I think this makes things easier for Notre Dame. You might be saying, well, they'll never get the automatic berth, and they'll never get the bye in the opening round to help their chances, you would think, of winning a national title. But Notre Dame had all of these same questions in a 4-team format. They had to be nearly perfect, a razor-thin edge each and every season. Now there's 7 spots for Notre Dame to occupy, and the odds makers agree. Again, why it is minus 170. That's the expectation this season in South Bend.
It is, and they want the eyes on the product. If it comes down to a 10-2 Notre Dame team, and let's just say an 11-1 Memphis team or Liberty that's not a conference champion, I think the committee would take Notre Dame in a heartbeat over both of those teams. So that's where you get the added benefit for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. They have the cachet. They have the tradition and pageantry that other teams don't have, right? Team and the fan bases want to see Notre Dame in terms of the college football playoff. So that's where you get the value in terms of the minus 170 to make it this year again. But they have to step up. They thought Sam Hartman was the answer last year. They specifically got Sam Hartman to win that game against Ryan Day in Ohio State. They had him for 58 minutes and 59 minutes and 30 seconds. Couldn't put him away last year.
In the first 2 years under Marcus Freeman, the Irish have won 9 and 10 games by the end of the season, but both of those years featured a bowl victory. They have not gone over the 10.5 win total, which is a regular season win total in either of his 2 years at the command in South Bend. Oftentimes, because of their independent status, Notre Dame plays a very difficult schedule. They have a scheduling alliance with the ACC. They play 5 ACC teams each and every year. Sometimes that can be Clemson or Florida State or Miami. Insert who you would like into that conversation. And then, of course, they're non-conference, and everything is a non-conference, but those other teams outside of the ACC are often quite grueling. USC in years past, Michigan, so on and so forth. This year, you look at the schedule for the Irish. it is not overly difficult in comparison. They do have Florida State, but that game is at home in South Bend. They open up the year on the road in College Station, where Riley Leonard, the former Duke quarterback, will play his former head coach, the former Duke head coach, who is now the head man in College Station, in Mike Elko. In that game, Joe, I think is even more fascinating in this 12-team era of the college football playoff because it is right now a virtual pick'em. Minus 111 in favor of A&M, minus 108. 3 cents of distinction on the money line, where in years past, the loser of the game, slim to none in terms of their margin of error to get to the college football playoff. This year, it is just a celebration of a great non-conference battle that will show us what Notre Dame is capable of this year.
It will, and think about the matchup. You have Mike Elko, a defensive mastermind that took down Cade Klubnik with 6 months of preparation, and he knows Riley Leonard very well. So if he's going to devise a game plan to really limit Riley Leonard in week number 1, he has 6 months to do it. I think that's why you're seeing the one pick'em type of spread play out right now in terms of the offseason, but I still give the edge to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They legitimately have the quarterback advantage in almost every ball game, and that includes Miller Moss and USC and DJU and Florida State. They play both Navy and Army on the schedule. There is no reason for this team not to win 10 football games. Marcus Freeman, 10 wins last year, but you lose to Louisville on primetime. You get blown out, right? You struggle with Duke. They had to pull that ball game out in the last minute of the regular in terms of the regulation. You cannot have lapses like that. So, again, it's the third year. He needs to step up. Pressure's on Notre Dame. I don't see any reason why they don't get over the 10.5.
On paper, outside of the game against Texas A&M, we'll see how USC looks at the end of the regular season. That's the regular season finale in the Coliseum in Los Angeles against the Trojans. Notre Dame's favored in 10, 11, maybe all 12 of their games. We'll see what that line ends up for the Week 1 opener against Texas A&M. And again, because there are 5 automatic berths to the college football playoff, there should be at least one seat at the table now for a non-power conference team in the group of 5. Now only 9 FBS conferences after the Pac-12 is no more. And Joe, 4 teams with the 4 shortest prices to reach the CFP from the group of 5 level. Liberty, plus 550. Memphis, 6-1 as well. Boise State, 6-1 the number, and Tulane 11-1 a little further back. But we start with Liberty, and we'll keep it moving around these group of 5 contenders for the CFP. Last year, the debate would have been furious for that final spot in the college football playoff between an unbeaten Liberty side, the champions of Conference USA, but not exactly the most difficult schedule, and an 11-2 AAC champ in SMU, who, of course, now is in the ACC with its only 2 losses in non-conference play against Oklahoma and TCU. That's a debate that we get to have this year throughout November and into early December. Liberty the best price, though, entering 2024 to reach the college football playoff.
Yeah, and Caden Salter comes back, 32 touchdowns. You're talking about an offense that produced 493 total yards. They went toe-to-toe with some of the best defenses in the country. They did get blown out in the bowl game against Oregon, but it doesn't matter. They can outscore a number of teams in regards to a conference championship. 32 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions for Salter. I think they're going to be right there with Seth Hennigan in Memphis, 32 touchdowns as well. I give the inside edge to Ryan Silverfield and Memphis. I think they're a little bit more physical, but we'll see how it plays out.
Who was picked up where Mike Norvell left off for the Memphis Tigers. And, oh, by the way, we'll continue to look at what their odds are like for this college football season on the other side, because Memphis, the favorites to win the AAC, and Boise State, the favorites to win the Mountain West for a second consecutive year, are teams that you should know and maybe bet on. The college football playoff conversation continues.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds? Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The Group of 5 conversation. Who are the CFP contenders in the new 12-team format of the college football playoff? Liberty, the best price of a non-power conference team to reach the CFP at plus 550. Liberty is an odds-on favorite to win CUSA's title for a second consecutive year. By the way, to your point on Caden Salter, he was just over 100 yards shy of having 3,000 passing this year. He had more than $1,000 on the ground as well. He would have matched Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Johnny Manziel as the only other quarterbacks in FBS history to have 3K passing, 1K rushing in a single season. Oh, by the way, 3 of those other 4 quarterbacks won a Heisman Trophy, and Jalen Hurts finished runner-up. That is the promise of what Caden Salter brings back at the quarterback position for Jamie Chadwell at Liberty. Now we go to the favorites in the AAC. It's Memphis, competitive conference, although teams like SMU do move on. They were the conference champ last year, a perfect 9-0 run to that conference championship in American action. And the champions of the Mountain West, despite an up-and-down year under Andy Avalos, who was fired, Joe, after a 5-5 record midway through the year. They take over there in Boise. Why am I blanking on the head coach's name? Hit it with me. Boise State's head coach.
Gilbertson.
It'll come to me. I'll think about it. We're brain farting a little bit. It's been a long day, but we'll come to us in just a second. But they are the favorites once again, is Boise State, to win the Mountain West title.
Danielson.
Yes. Spencer Danielson. Correct. Who was promoted from the interim head coach to the permanent head coach as well for Boise State. Regardless, he led the Broncos to a Mountain West title last year. They're expected to do the same in the Mountain West this year.
And Malachi Nelson comes over for USC. Yeah. Taylon Green, that was the success of that offense, is now the starting quarterback at Arkansas with Sam Pittman. So it's an amazing transition and revolving door. And we saw last year 7-5 overall. Boise State got away from their offensive identity. They were able to throw it much more consistently at the end of the regular season. Defensively, they stepped up, did not step up in the bowl loss to Northwestern. But again, when you just see this play out, Ben, 9.5 is a huge number. I would go under that total in regards to that. Again, I think maybe Air Force can bounce back in a big way. There's some other contenders as well in terms of the Mount West. It's a good look, but again, it all hinges on Malachi Nelson. If he lives up to expectations, forget just winning the Mount West. Maybe they crack the party for the college football playoff. He might be a dark horse for the Heisman as well.
Ashton Genty, one of the best dual threat backs in all the country, what he can do on the ground for Boise and also through the air. Boise State last year, Mountain West champ, plus 135 to make it 2 in a row. Memphis, the favorites to win the AAC. Tulane, the fourth best price of group of 5 teams to see the college football playoff. But Willie Fritz, no longer in New Orleans. It's John Sumrall, who was the head coach of a successful Troy football program the last few years. By the way, Memphis hasn't had a losing season in a decade, and what Ryan Silverfield has built at Memphis continues for the Tigers. They have won at least 8 games in 8 of the last 10 years, 10 wins a season ago. And the reason we have the group of 5 conversation, and one of my favorite things about it, Joe, is these programs, these players, these head coaches are going to get the national attention all year long. It's not the, forgotten, okay, which group of 5 team are we putting in the New Year's 6 when all is said and done after we select the 4? It's a conversation that continues with all 12 teams because of the 5 highest ranked conference champions earning an automatic berth to the college football playoff. And it's why betting Liberty at plus 550 or Memphis and or Boise State at 6-1 does make some sense. If you believe those teams can win their conferences and are able to attain that automatic berth, they just have to be ranked higher than teams that are like them, like a Liberty, like a Tulane, like a Memphis. It's worth a sprinkle just to be included in the dance that is the 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, again, these are teams that are under the radar now, but as the regular season progresses, they start to peak at the end of the regular season. They have more value. So you buy low, sell high in regards to the college football playoff. I'll say this in terms of your point about Ryan Silverfield. You look at the games that they lost to last year. Missouri, in their house, they lost by 7. They went toe-to-toe with SMU, lost by 4. Every loss right now was by 10 or less. Tulane, 10 points, 31-21. They have a signal caller in Hennigan that could step up. Again, very physical. And that bowl win over Iowa State proved me something. Even though it was a home game for them, I mean, to put up and tack on 36 points, they averaged 39 points per game. Great value. Both of those teams, Liberty, Boise State, all 6-1 respectively. That's great value across the board.
And it should go as a reminder as well of the teams left behind from the Pac-12. Now tied forever, the Pac-2, Oregon State and Washington State. Jake Dickert remains as the head coach for Wazoo on the Palouse. Jonathan Smith left Corvallis. He's now in East Lansing as the head coach of Michigan State. But linebacker great for Oregon State and the DC the past few years under Smith. Trent Bray takes over as the head coach. Oregon State 17-1 to reach the college football playoff. Wazoo 38-1. What makes it incredibly difficult, they are not in line for an automatic berth as a conference champ because they don't technically belong to a conference. Each team will play 6 Mountain West foes, 3 home games against Mountain West teams, 3 road games against Mountain West teams as well in a scheduling alliance. But we will pour some out for the Beavs and the Cougs. Proud football programs, incredibly passionate fan bases, some of the greatest settings in all of college football, but just the dark side of realignment, Lisi.
It really is, and I think for both of those programs as well, 6-6, 7-5 is a great, first year out of the Pac-12. And, I credit Dickert as well for staying there and staying with his players, the players that he recruited in Pullman to wear it out. And, hey, let's see what the next 1 or 2 seasons after the Pac-12 is dissolved. Let's see where it takes us. Yeah. And I credit that. Jonathan Smith moved on to a bigger and better deal with Michigan State, Damian Martinez as well. But again, I still think when you look at the success of both teams, Goldberson is there for Oregon State. They have more returning starters than Wazoo. So I think Oregon State potentially could be a 7-win football team.
Both teams with a win total of 7.5, and the under has the juice slightly for the Cougs and the Beavs. The roster's kind of gutted as well. Cam Ward leaves Washington State. He's now the signal caller at Miami. But everybody is going to be pulling for those on the Palouse and in Corvallis this upcoming college football season. Before we go, here on our CFT Summer Special, what kind of show would this be without a best bet for the 2024 college football season? Next.
One of the many exciting things about joining Liv was was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have LIV.
It's very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
I feel like when there's this wind at this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. It was. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this is one of those days for me, so I relish in it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So yeah, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
Welcome back for one final segment of College Football Today's Summer Special here on SportsGrid. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. And it goes without saying that Kevin Walsh will be here with us throughout the entirety of the 2024 college football campaign. It's the summer. We've got to take some time off. We've got to focus on other things. But before we go, before summer school is out to get you set for 2024, it is time now for our favorite of all the wagers that we will lay here in the offseason before the year gets started. It's time for a 2024 college football campaign best bet. Lisi guy, age before beauty, my friend. You get to go first here with your best bet for the 2024
Well, you said it so eloquently that, you know, you got to recharge the batteries, and you and K-Dubs are family, and so is Brian Kelly. I might be called a homer on the show because I love LSU, but I really believe the LSU Tigers can get over the 9.5 at plus 106 this year. Garrett Nussmeier takes over. The way he's built the offense and defensive lines in terms of recruiting, I think year number 3 is the year that they break out. Plus 106. They're also plus 125 to make the college football playoff. And think about this. The mad scientist, Nick Saban, who was 34-4 against SEC opponents over the past couple of seasons, 9-0 last year and won those games by 12 points per game. He's gone, baby. LSU goes over the total and cracks the college football playoff.
It's a really good point as well. And that's really what you can do in these summer months, in the off season. You can start to correlate wagers that make sense altogether. If, like Joe, you believe the Bayou Bengals are going over 9.5 wins, that's double digits. That's a 10-2 regular season record at bare minimum. I would be shocked, stunned, and frankly appalled if a 10-2 LSU team in this year's rendition of the SEC in the realigned conference did not make the college football playoff. So over with some slight plus money and then a plus 125 price to get to the college football playoff. It all depends on the defense in Baton Rouge. What can Blake Baker do, the new DC, hired away from Missouri, from one group of Tigers to another? Harold Perkins, an elite talent. How do they solidify the middle of that defensive line and that front? That is my question for the Bayou Bengals this year. My best bet, another win total. But in the Big 12, it's Iowa State. over 7.5 wins for the Cyclones. When you look at this team, 85% of the production from a season ago returns to Ames. That is the most nationally in all of college football, including their quarterback, Rocco Becht, who gained invaluable experience a year ago, the entirety of the starting offensive line, his 2 top targets as well on the offensive side of the football. And you know Matt Campbell is going to have that Cyclones defense reared and ready to go for this season. 6 losses a year ago, by the way, for Iowa State. 4 by 10 points or less. Competitive for the Cyclones. I would expect some of those competitive losses to now go their way, over 7.5. And Lisi, in a conference we both are fascinated by in the Big 12, with so many teams right around those numbers, 8 teams with a 12-1 price or better to win the Big 12 championship this year, and all 8 of those teams with a win total of 7.5 or better. If I think Iowa State can go over 7.5, you know I'm going to sprinkle on the Clones price to win the Big 12, at least being one of those 2 teams to square off in the conference title game.
And who knows, maybe they could be the TCU of a couple of years ago and crack the college football playoff. The negative turns into a positive for Matt Campbell. You talk about the Hunter Decker situation. It really set up Rocco Becht in that offense for year number 2. 18 starters, like you mentioned, coming back. They can run it. They can throw it. And if that defense takes the next step in the Big 12, we know how good of a coach Matt Campbell is. He was on the hot seat. I put him on the hot seat a couple of seasons ago. Now he potentially can win the Big 12.
Which is crazy to say. It's a realigned conference. All of the power conferences look a little bit different, and some of those group of 5 schools that have seen teams defect, like SMU, from the AAC to the ACC, look different as well. Many changing names, many changing faces, many different places for the 2024 college football season. There's a lot to know. I hope this CFT Summer Special got you at least up to speed, because there will be plenty of more information to give out as the college football season gets underway. Saturday, August 24th, it is week 0 of the campaign, and then everything from there on out, Lisa Guy, truly begins.
I'm chomping at the bit, baby. I can't wait. Let's kick it off. Toe meets leather, August 24th, baby.
Toe meets leather, and it's not a soccer ball despite being across the pond. The Dublin debut in Ireland between Georgia Tech and Florida State. Part of a smaller slate, week 0, but then we fully get underway for week 1 just about 4 days later. That's when we'll talk to you. He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. Thanks for tuning in to our College Football Today Summer Special. We'll talk when the season starts.